Welcome to the first episode of Lions on Leashes. I am your founder and host, Marissa. This is a podcast where strong females share how they got to where they are today, and I am so honored to have our first episode with Deanna Rich. She is the owner of Rich Accessories, which is an online jewelry and accessories boutique based in Durham, North Carolina. On this first episode, we hear Deanna's story and we go into traditions, we go into fear, we go up to standing up for yourself, we go into handling really difficult situations and making choices where you have to decide on doing what you love and what gets you out of bed in the morning and financial stability, and eventually working back up to your goal. And for her, it was owning Rich Accessories and being her own boss. And there are some crazy stories and some amazing advice that she gives. And one of the stories is she sells a $17,000 bracelet and her boss doesn't even know about it until the sale is made. And you're not going to believe what they gave to her as a thank you, but I'm not going to give it away, so you have to listen. Welcome to the Ladies with Lions community. I'm so glad you're here, and let's get this episode started. So you've had a pretty influence in design and culture and jewelry throughout your whole life, right? Like, so your family, your grandmother, your mom have really unique taste. Can you talk to me about that?
Yeah, so I'm Italian American, and my great-grandparents moved here from Italy on both sides, pretty much. And in the Italian culture, jewelry is very important, and it's a way to preserve family history. And you wear it all the time. I mean, my grandparents, my aunts, my mom, my dad, their friends, growing up in Long Island in an Italian family, everybody was dripping in gold. I mean, It's just the truth. And it wasn't that we were rich or royal or, it's nothing like that. But that was just kind of the design aesthetic that I grew up around, multiple gold bracelets, multiple gold necklaces, like maybe several ear piercings and diamonds and colored gemstones and all that stuff. So that was always an interest of mine, I guess you could say, because from my earliest memories, I would be sitting looking through a jewelry box, whether it was my mom's, my aunt's, my grandmother's, and there would be a story attached to each piece of jewelry. I had one aunt, Z Gem, who traveled the world. And there's not really that many traveling people, I guess you could say, in my family. We're not world travelers. So the fact that she was a world traveler was a really big deal in her family because she kind of like taught us about other countries. And she had all kinds of stuff that she brought from all over the world, but of course, jewelry. And I have some of her pieces. I have pieces from my grandmother that she got from her grandmother that are over 100 years old.
And I feel like as generations, that's not going to happen to our kids, right? Like our generation, I feel like was the last one. It's like, oh, here's an heirloom from a ring from Italy in 1929, right? Yeah. Like I feel like that's getting kind of lost.
Oh, definitely. Right now. It's totally being lost in our culture. And a lot of, I think what I grew up with was really an old European tradition that was being preserved in America. Americans also pass down rings. I worked in a jewelry store and a diamond engagement ring shop, and other cultures as well in the United States pass down diamond rings and pass down jewelry. It's just a really strong Italian heritage thing. But I will say the mass consumerism of America and things being cheaply made and made for a high profit margin that's just a part of what's breaking down that tradition, because we don't value quality anymore in our goods, in our consumer goods. Most people want to buy the Vera Wang necklace from Kay's jeweler because they saw a commercial. Well, I hate to tell you, but Vera Wang's jewelry is not going to last throughout generations. It's not a piece that if you wear it every day, you can pass it down, because the quality is just not there because they're mass producing it like the way they mass produce t-shirts.
Right.
And that's what large jewelry companies have gotten people used to, a certain price point for a certain piece of fine jewelry. But the definition of fine jewelry has gone down a lot as corporations have come into jewelry and used their mass-produced cheap labor models on diamond rings and heirloom pieces that we used to value as a culture when a local jeweler would make it. You would have it made, custom made, and it would be done right. And then that would ensure the quality and also the individuality of it. It's almost like a tiny little sculpture that you design, if you think about it.
Right.
You make something custom. And that's what my grandparents and that's what they were doing. They were commissioning custom jewelry, and then that was being passed down. It's almost like a tiny little sculpture, like a tiny little work of art, you know? And I love that. I love that part of our culture and the part of the jewelry culture, which, by the way, is international. Every culture has jewelry in it, as far back as the ancient times. So
that's incredible. I love that.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of things I want to touch upon, but one of the reasons that I wanted you as our show is because you are the definition of finally saying, you know what, I'm taking this risk. And you have such a story of a dream, and then finally having that epiphany of it's going to be right now. And
thank you. That means a lot to me. Thank you.
Oh, of course. So
yeah.
When we talk about a lady with lions, you are the definition of it. So I want to take me through that story of, you know, I know you worked in jewelry. You've obviously always had a passion for it. You have fashion, you know, your home decor shows that as well, and your style and your clothes and everything like that. You did do jewelry, but then you were doing like corporate sales, but you always had this dream and you knew it was going to happen, but you just didn't know when. Can you take me through that?
Yeah, sure. So right now I am a business owner and I own a jewelry business. I design jewelry I haven't made locally, and I sell it online and at local pop-up shops. And I also sell other people's collections. So that's where I am today. So I am now a business owner and I own my own jewelry business, but I started my career having no idea that that's what I would be doing right now. It's almost like my dream of owning a jewelry business emerged about in my mid-20s. It's interesting. I got an English degree because I loved writing and I loved reading, and I knew I could get a high GPA pursuing a subject that I loved, because I wouldn't be fighting a really boring topic just to kind of get the A. You know, a lot of people in my college were doing engineering and science and biology, and a lot of them didn't really like it, but they were doing it because they thought that was what they were supposed to do, or it would make them a lot of money, or it would give them a secure future. So I always felt different, even in college, because I was just getting my degree. I really had no idea what I was going to do with the English degree. I just knew I wanted it. So I guess part of the way I've looked at my career is it's kind of a balance between what you want right now and not getting too caught up in the long term, but also being patient. I don't know. It's hard to explain. Anyway, so I didn't know what I was going to do. So, and then I started to say, well, maybe I'll be a lawyer. I think I'll latch on to law. This is a good thing for me because I'm a really good communicator and I think I could be effective as a lawyer. Well, by my senior year, I had taken some law classes. I didn't like them. And I realized that the market was saturated as well for lawyers. And to be honest with you, I didn't want to do any more school. I was done. By the time I was, a senior in college, I was itching to get into the business world.
And you usually know that through college too, right? Like I've switched my major like 2 or 3 times. I went in going for what was I doing? I can't even, it transpired so many times, but originally it was like, I wanted to be a psychologist that specialized in sign language so I could sign to deaf children that wanted therapy.
Okay.
And now I do marketing.
Yeah, I know.
It's like totally opposite ends of the spectrum.
It's really interesting now to be 30 years old and to look back at the past 10 years and what's happened, and how, like you said, how many times my mind has been changed on what it is I want to do. I mean, I feel really settled and good about where I've landed, but man, I mean, ages 20 to 30, it was so many changes of direction. I had no idea the crazy twists and turns that my career was about to take when I graduated. So like I said, last year of college, I was like, you know what, I'm not going to be a lawyer. Therefore, I really don't know what I'm going to do. And I'll be honest with you, I wasn't chill about it. It bothered me a lot that I didn't know what I was going to do. I always worked retail. So my first job at 17, I got a job at Gymboree, which is the kids' clothing store. I could walk. My high school was across the street from a mall, which was kind of awesome. So I would just walk across the street after school and work a couple hours, and then I could even walk home. because it was pretty close together. My house, the mall, and the school. So I grew up in the mall, basically. And I really liked it. It was really fun. It was easy work. I just loved the retail environment. I loved the cycle of it. I love fashion. I love helping customers. I love setting up the displays. I think that's really when I got my love for merchandising and displays, was working as a teenager at the mall at a kid's store. And so I found myself at 22, not knowing what I wanted to do with my career, but I knew I liked retail. And I had just taken a fashion history class my last semester of college. I didn't take anything in design or fashion. It was all, strictly English, history, French, culture classes. And the very last semester, I had an opportunity to take a class in fashion history. And I had a huge awakening during this final semester in college when I was taking this class. It was just stimulating to me on so many levels to learn the history of Coco Chanel, Lanvin, all of these, Charles Worth, and how fashion became an art really in our society. And it was so interesting, and it was so tied to feminism and women's rights. And I just loved the class. And the professor was this very flamboyant, amazing man. He was also the director of the theater, and he just had an amazing career. So I actually had a dream. I remember I was taking that class, and I watched this movie. If anybody likes fashion, definitely look up the September issue. I'm pretty sure it's on Netflix, but it's about the 2007 September issue of Vogue. What happens is Anna Wintour just takes you through what her life is like for the creation of the September issue of Vogue. And that's all it is, but it's amazing, obviously. And I watched that movie, and I was in this fashion history class, and I was just like, wow, I need to do something with fashion. Like, I don't know what, I don't know how. I live in North Carolina, by the way. It's not New York City anymore for me. So I highly considered moving back to New York to pursue a fashion career. I considered it. I really did. And I remember going to my professor for advice, and he gave me, this is the best career advice I've probably ever gotten. And I'll tell you right now, especially for people who are just graduating, or even people who want a career change, any type of career change. He said, find people who are doing what it is that you want to do, anything, no matter what it is that you want to do. Find people who are already doing it, reach out to them, and offer to help them for free. And if you're good enough at what you're doing, you won't be doing it for free for very long. Wow. And that's what he told me. And so, and I also asked him, I was like, I have this English degree, and I'm really interested in fashion, and I love this movie about the September issue, and I think I would like to pursue fashion journalism. But we live in North Carolina, and we don't have any major publications here, obviously. We don't even have any major brands that headquarter here. There's really no fashion industry in North Carolina. It's very small and local. Definitely nothing at the corporate level. Not much anyway, not much. So I was wondering how I was going to pursue this career in fashion journalism here in North Carolina. And he pointed out to me that we do have publications that have fashion spreads. We have Raleigh Magazine, we have Triangle Style Magazine, we have Midtown Magazine, and he started listing Walter Magazine. I was like, oh yeah, I know these magazines. They're all over the place.
We always just think of the big things. We forgot to put back into perspective of what's
going on in your own community.
Right. Yeah. We always automatically think of the top.
Yeah.
Right?
Who are the people that's a great point. Who are the people in your community who are doing things that you want to do? Maybe it's not on a huge scale, but it's still the same thing, right?
Right, exactly.
I wanted to be involved in the photo shoots.
And you have been. I wanted to get to that too.
I wanted to be involved in the interviews. I wanted to be involved in the photography. I wanted to be involved in the styling and just putting together the whole magazine. It was just such an interesting topic to me. And he pointed out to me all the local publications, and then he armed me with the advice of just go do some stuff for free and go meet some people and offer some free labor. And that's what I did. So I left his office, and I just felt really refreshed and really excited.
Motivated. You're like, hell yeah.
Motivated. I was like, hell yeah. Like, this guy is amazing.
And I really hope everyone at least has one person like that.
Yeah.
I think everyone can be their own worst enemy too. And a lot of the public can be your worst critic as well. Like, there's always this negative confrontation from ourselves and other people that critique and things like that. I just hope that everyone has that person or that one conversation, right? Anything to that point where they can just motivate you for what you want to do.
Yes.
Right. Because there's a lot more negative feedback than there is positive.
Yeah.
But
And just for me, it was just that real life experience. His advice was coming from a place of, having been there himself and having made an amazing career himself. He was an older man and he had an amazing career. And for me, after that, I was like, you know what? I'm going to look for advice from people who are successful. This is going to be part of my path.
Were you scared to do that? Because you're an extrovert though. So, but were you scared to like, where do I start? Or was it just pure motivation that you're like, I'm just gonna go and do it?
I was totally scared. Like, I think sometimes people look at people who take risks and put themselves out there like I have done, and they think that we don't experience fear. It's not that we don't experience fear. It's that we learn how to do it scared. Like, I have the fear, but I do it anyway. And I think for me, being in performing arts helped me with that. So when I was younger, I was in ballet, tap, jazz, all the dance. I was in color guard. I did drum corps international, and I toured all over the country in color guard. And it's such high pressure when you're on stage or on the field and a bunch of people are watching you. It's really obvious if you mess up, know? So of course you're a dancer. So for me, I think the performing arts trained me to do things scared. Like, even though you're scared and you're nervous, you just have to figure out a way to manage that. And so you can move forward with what it is that you need to do. And you don't let it take over. Because if you let the fear take over, like, forget it. Like, you're going to fall.
So you do this, you become a sponge.
Yeah. So,
I want to move to the next part of the journey.
So for me, I thought I was just casually going to get this part-time job, just work in retail like I always do, because I didn't have a full-time job after college. And, I ended up moving back home. No, I already moved home. I lived at home senior year to save money. I went to NC State. My mom, lived just 15 minutes away. So I was living with my mom and graduated college, like no job, you know what I mean? Like student debt. It's hard to be 22. It's hard. Like, party's over.
You take your gown and cap off, they give you the bill and go,
the bill.
Right, thanks. Yeah.
Yeah. The career counselors at NC State were awful. I mean, it was just a joke when I would go try to get career help. So I just got a job at a boutique. I was like, let me just go get a part-time retail job while I figure my life out. I didn't want to rush into anything. And honestly, like, I was interviewing a lot and applying to a lot of jobs, and like, I couldn't get one.
Well, that was also the 2000. What was it?
This is 2012.
Yeah. So
the economy was horrible.
The economy was literally on fire.
Yeah. I literally remember sitting in the office with a staffing agent, and she was trying to find me a job, and she was just explaining that the economy is really bad, and like, I'm sorry. And I cried.
Aw, yeah. I remember I was at my intern. I was at my intern.
Super chill, you know what I mean?
Yeah, it was definitely like the worst news. Congratulations. A, you're not going to get a job. And 2, here's a $40,000 bill for one. Things like that. But I remember eating at a McDonald's, walking distance from my internship. And for some reason, this McDonald's has a TV. And I'm sitting there eating like a $5 Big Mac at the time.
Yeah.
Just watching the news saying how horrible the economy is and how no one has jobs. And I'm just like, all right, well,
here we go.
Own it. Yeah. I'm just going to sit here, consume a day's worth of calories in one sitting and not get paid for what I'm doing.
And hope for the
love
best.
every second of it.
Yeah. So, and that's exactly what they told me to do too. Work unpaid.
Nowadays, it's like,
I mean, yeah.
Can you imagine?
So, I don't know. So yeah.
So you went to a boutique.
Okay. So, and this is what I said. I had been working on and off at Gymboree even through college. I kept that job because it was super chill. I could just leave for months at a time.
Yeah, college job.
With no explanation and just show up, and they'd be like, okay, like, when do you want to work? So it was really flexible. So I worked at Gymboree like through 17 to 22, working at the small store. That was a corporate store.
Corporate retail will eat anyone alive. Though.
Corporate retail,
people in corporate retail that
I just saw so many good people get burned who were working really hard for the company and just be treated so poorly, and just really dumb operational things that we would have to do. You know how it is.
It's like, that's why they have undercover boss. That's always the reactive thing. They make decisions above.
Yep.
Then shit hits the fan and like, oh shit, I got to go pretend I'm Kelly from Idaho. and I got to go fix it
I love
now,
that show. Yeah.
Right. So,
But they have no idea what the implications are on the ground of the decisions they make at the top.
right.
And that was
Right.
just really, really hard for me. And, you don't really make much more than minimum wage. So it's just hard to care after a certain point. And so I said to myself, I want to work retail, but I'm not going to do another corporate retail job. I want to move into a small business setting. I want to work for a independent boutique, because in that setting, I will be able to see all the areas of the business. In my corporate retail jobs, you unpack the boxes, you put the signs out, you put the displays together, but that's all a directive given by corporate. You just do the plan that they give you. There's no creativity involved. You just do what the corporate tells you to do, which is fine, but I wanted to work for a company where I could see a retailer creatively market their goods, work with their vendors, go to buying trips, find the people who are going to supply the clothes and jewelry for their shop.
Right. You don't want to be the back half. You want it to see the full development of the picture.
That's right. I didn't want to just be like a frontline worker anymore. I just
Right.
wanted to go work for somebody who owned a store.
So did you go to jewelry next?
No, I sold clothes first. This is still me selling clothing. So I sold baby clothes at Gymboree for like 7 years or something. And then at 22, I left that job and I did clothing sales and accessories for a company in Raleigh who imported really, really beautiful designer clothes, handbags, and jewelry from France, from Italy, from Japan. So the store was owned really just by one woman and her business partner, who was also her life partner. They were not married, but they worked together. And it was really just them two. And they had a general manager who worked full time to help them manage the store. But it was just the three of them. And I walked in and asked for a job. So this was another interesting thing I'll say about this time in my life. I was applying for a bunch of corporate full-time jobs online and not getting any of them. So my approach to finding a retail job was to just go in person, because I was so sick of staying at home and doing online applications. I was just so tired of it. I was like, you know what? I'm just going to go put on a nice dress, do my hair and makeup, and just walk in every store in Cameron Village, which is like a fancy high-end shopping center in Raleigh, and ask each store if they need help, because that was kind of a hub for local boutiques that sold nicer things, So I ended up walking to this one store and they basically hired me on the spot. So I got that job pretty quickly and I just learned so much from that job. I had no idea just how good of a move that was for me. It just felt like, whatever. I just need, a slightly better part-time retail job while I figure out my career or what my life is going to be. I didn't look at that as a career. I looked at it as a job in a way, but it just turned out to be almost like college part two, like career training, because working for her just opened up my eyes to the way commerce works, how buying works, how vendor management works, how what I will call white glove customer service. So the people that we served at this boutique it was like the governor or like the mayor, the CEO of some big industrial plant that you've never even heard of, but they're millionaires.
So you went from like two extremes. You went from traditional mall
commercial
experiences to people who buy Rolls Royces. Like you had like the two totally different aspects. But what sounds so cool about that is that you took it, and this is what some people don't understand, I think today, is that you have to use, like you said, it was a job. You went into it like this is a job, not a career. But then you took those experiences and that type of, how would I say this, like showing up on time, taking a shower, cleaning, being able to talk to very influential people at such a young age.
And present yourself. Yeah.
Exactly. And you can present yourself as one of those people as well with class and whatnot. But then you have people who are even older than that can't get to their jobs on time. But you're like, no, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do it 110%. I'm gonna own the experience, right? So you do clothes.
Yep. So sell clothes.
So, but then do you get, because I know you go to jewelry at some point for some small family owned businesses. You were then designing.
That's what I did next. That's what I did next.
Okay.
Yep. So keep in mind, this was a great job. It really gave me a great view into retail, into fashion, but it was not a full-time job. So I was still actively looking for full-time jobs. And I was at this boutique working part-time for about a year and a half. I finally found a full-time job working as a sales associate at a family-owned jewelry store.
Was it high-end stuff?
Oh yeah.
Okay, cool.
So it
So you went,
was,
you were already kind of going back, staying in that class
yes.
of
So
people.
I was in the luxury world, I guess you could say, the small business luxury world in my community. Because in Raleigh, there are lots of corporate headquarters. There is a lot of wealth here. You know, a lot of people don't think about North Carolina, but there's a lot of businesses here. And so I was able to create a pretty exciting, enriching luxury fashion career in North Carolina. It was refreshing. It was really nice. You know, I was really happy. So by that time I was 24, I got this job working full time at a custom jeweler. So I would say about 80% of what they sold was custom made jewelry. So that means somebody would come in, for instance, with an old ring that maybe they inherited from an aunt or their mom or dad, but the style was really old fashioned looking. So they didn't like the way the diamonds were set. So we would help them take the stones out of that ring and then rework a design that was more modern and better fitted to whatever it is that they wanted in their jewelry collection. So the point of that being is we would value the stones for them, you know, take the stones out. That would be the value, right? The metal we would melt down, the old metal. And then we had 3 jewelers who worked in store. So the bottom story was a showroom. And then the top story, the 2-story building, was where everything was made. So we had in-house manufacturing. We had 3 jewelers full-time making jewelry. And it was always a backlog. This store was insanely busy. The demand for custom jewelry is high. People don't realize, and the other thing that people don't realize about custom jewelry is it's not only for rich people and movie stars. I was doing custom, you know, diamond rings for people who had a $2,000 budget. Let me tell you, it's challenging. It's a challenge because, like I said, now we're going back to local manufacturing. We pay the people who make our jewelry a living wage in North Carolina, in the United States. So you have to factor in that labor cost when you're making custom. But now you've created something that is going to last forever. That was really fun. I got to learn about jewelry design, how to design jewelry. I learned about CAD models. So most people don't realize that 3D printing is used every single day in the jewelry industry. And they have been using it for probably 10 years. And we would make CAD models. We had 3D designers. One of the owners I worked for, he did the 3D design. So really family owned, really, you know, tight knit family running this shop. And it was really cool. I mean, I think maybe there was 9 of us in the whole business. And I really enjoyed myself. That to me was the best job I had ever had. I was working full time. I had, you know, a million pieces of jewelry that I was working on, whether I was helping with the design, whether I was calling around all over the country or sometimes the world looking for a specific gemstone that somebody wanted. You know, I would be working with one of our vendors who would sell us finished jewelry to help fill in the cases because, you know, some people come in and they just want to buy, you know, a silver necklace with some topaz in it for $300. They're not in there looking to spend, you know, 5, 10, 20 grand on a custom piece of jewelry. So we would also work with vendors to fill in the cases with more gifty stuff, like lower price point stuff. And so I would be in charge of that and working with those vendors and selling the gift items as well. So I just had a lot of different things to do. I had some training in diamond grading and diamond identification. I got certified by the GIA in jewelry essentials. So it was just a wealth of an education and information. But the downside to that was they paid me really bad. Like the money was horrible. I wasn't making commission. They would not put me on salary. I was making a really low hourly rate, which I accepted when I first got the job, but they told me that was the training rate. But then training was over and they never raised my pay. And that was a continued issue for me working there. I did stay for 1.5 years, but the longer I worked there, the angrier I got about the money, you know? It just really hurt me. You know, one time I closed this awesome deal I sold a diamond tennis bracelet. It was a $17,000 bracelet. And the couple who purchased the bracelet from me were pitting me against two other jewelers openly. They openly were telling me what the other two jewelers were offering and what price that they were offering this bracelet for. And I had to negotiate really hard against two other businesses to close the $17,000 deal. And the owners of the business didn't even know that I was working on that. They didn't even know. It was just one day they happened to be in the back office when I was taking payment, and they saw me swiping a credit card for 17 grand. And they were like, whoa, what? You just sold that bracelet? I was like, yeah, I just sold that bracelet. Which, by the way, they didn't even have in stock. I had to call around New York City to find the bracelet that these people even wanted at the right price. So I really worked hard on this sale. And I sold the bracelet. You know what they gave me, Marissa?
I can only imagine.
Do you know what they did? They bought me a cupcake. Went to the bakery around the corner and bought me. By the way, it was some corporate cupcake shop too, so it wasn't even good.
Incredible. It's incredible.
A cupcake. Okay. Just to show you the level of disrespect. I mean, it's just disrespect. I think I was making $14 an hour. I literally sat in the office and said, at least 15, at least 15. And it was no. I was making $14 an hour selling $17,000 diamond bracelets on my own. No help.
So is the fuel, so where is this where the dream of Rich Accessories happens? Like,
Yes.
Is this now where like the fuel
Yes.
is? Like, take me through that journey.
Yes. So I found myself in this position where I was asking for raises, rudely being told no. And I mean, I'll just go ahead and tell you, it was not professional. I was basically told not to ask again, and it was final. So I knew I couldn't stay there. I knew I had to move on. As much as I love the job, I love my clients, I love the projects I was working on. You know, I had a good time with my coworkers. It was just a creative environment, all of that. But you have to feed yourself, right? Life costs money. So I couldn't do it anymore. I had to leave. And before I left, I had this epiphany. And I will never forget this day. I was 25 years old. I was standing in my kitchen, and I just got this vision of owning my own store, my own jewelry store. And all of a sudden, I just washed over me that this is what I'm supposed to do. I'm supposed to own a fashion business in North Carolina. I'm going to do it right here, and I'm going to do it right. And I'm not going to underpay my employees. I'm not going to be slack about website and social media, because that was one of the issues that I had with the clothing job that I worked for, the European import shop, where I learned all that great stuff about the fashion industry. They were kind of old school, and I made them their first website in 2012. I was just frustrated. I had worked for these two small businesses, and there were so many things that really lit a fire in me and really just like made my soul happy. But I knew that if I were going to make any money doing this, I had to be on my own, and I had to be the owner, because I saw how rich the owners were getting off of my labor. So from the ages of 22, when I graduated, through 25, I was making less than $15 an hour as a college graduate, working in luxury retail. So I had this dichotomy going on where I found this niche, this local fashion niche, that I felt I could make my career in. And because I didn't want to leave North Carolina, I wanted to stay here. So I knew I had to figure out how to make a career here in fashion and retail.
So you were making like $15 an hour or less, while like
less than 15. I couldn't even get to $15 an hour. I was asking for raises and being denied.
But then you get a full-time job.
Yeah. I got to the point where I loved what I was doing. I learned so much. I'm designing jewelry. This is great. I like jump out of bed every day to go to work because I'm so happy, but I have no money. So I needed to do something about that, because here I am 25 years old and I'm making $14 an hour. I have a college degree. This is ridiculous. Like, no, I was angry. I was full of anger. Okay. So I was talking to my friend Emily, who at the time just got a job at Red Hat, which we have, I think, the global headquarters here in Raleigh. And so she was working corporate marketing. She was my friend from college. We got our English degrees together. Emily had mentioned to me, I was just telling her what was going on, and I was in this diamond sales job that was paying, crap money, and I didn't know what to do, but I wanted to make more money. And she was like, have you thought about corporate sales? And I was like, no, I haven't, but I'm going to look into that. So she gave me the idea of corporate sales, and I felt pretty confident in my sales ability. I guess you could say capital S sales after having closed, some pretty big deals on my own, 10, 20, $30,000 deals with customers purchasing diamonds and jewelry. I felt confident in my business skills. So, but I did know that in order to be a business owner, because I knew ultimately that's what I wanted to do, that in order to be a business owner and to be successful financially, I would have to sharpen my business skills. And I knew that working in corporate sales would help me do that. It would almost, like, in a way, I almost looked at it as like going to the gym to like get big muscles, but like going to corporate sales to get like big, like business sales muscles. I knew I wouldn't do it forever, but I was so ready for money, like professional money, salespeople money. I mean, people in sales should be making good money. It was ridiculous that I was so poor working as a salesperson for so long. But the truth is, people are just cheap. Like, business owners are cheap. We like to, romanticize small businesses. But in my experience, I was treated pretty badly by small business owners in my community in terms of pay. So just something to keep in mind. But so I got a job really fast in corporate sales, like lightning speed fast. All I did is I just wrote out my resume and I uploaded it onto Indeed.com, and I marked it as public and searchable. And I didn't apply to a single job. I don't know, within 2 hours of my resume being public on Indeed, I got a phone call from a recruiter who said they had a sales position open and they wanted to get me in for an interview right away. And I was like, great. Okay, that was easy. And that interview, so I interviewed with a recruiter first, and she kind of prepared me for what the interview was going to be like. And it was for a big corporation. I was going to be on the phone all day. It's a phone sales job. You're going to be dialing the phone and, maybe 40, 50 times a day. And, can you do this? Can you sit in a cubicle and just be on the phone all day? Can you do this? I was like, yes, yes. But inside, I was like really scared about that, because going into a cubicle environment, going into an office environment where everything is gray and everything's the same and it's just really conservative, coming from the retail world and the small business world where it was so free and creative and beautiful. Quite honestly, I was working full time in a glamorous showroom full of diamonds and some of the finest jewels, like in the state, or in the room that I worked in. So it was hard to leave that. It was really hard to leave the glamour and the beauty and the creativity of being in that environment of custom jewelry, but it wasn't paying. So I had to say goodbye. And I stepped into this role as a corporate salesperson, phone sales. And the interview was really tough. It probably lasted 2 hours. I was grilled by probably 10 managers. And they're just trying to get you ready for what it's going to be like on the phones, because people are not nice. Cold calling is I've done a lot of hard things. One of the hardest things I've ever done in my life. Never will do. But yeah, it was a cold caller at a tech company, one of 200 sales reps for North American sales. And it was a really hard job, but I made my goal. They set a financial goal for me. I met it and exceeded it by 13%. So it was 113% by the end of my first year. I was working with the federal government, and I was selling technical and professional training classes, virtual classes, to government workers. That's what I was doing. And it was really lucrative. I really loved my manager. She was amazing. I learned so much from her. She was a woman that had been in sales for a pretty long time, but before she worked in corporate sales, she worked as the Starbucks barista, So the cool thing about corporate sales that I really fell in love with was anybody could do it. Anybody could do sales. It didn't matter what your background was. It didn't matter if you had a college degree. It didn't matter if you had done it before. They would literally just take anybody with the hunger and the fight and the drive to go out there and to find customers and to close deals. I really liked that. And I also liked competing against myself and having a quota and having an amount of money that I had to make sure was secured for my little area of the business that I was responsible for. That was my money. that I had to make sure I could get in every day. And it gave me this sense of responsibility and financial responsibility within the boundaries of a corporation, which I was like, okay, if I can do financial goals daily, weekly, monthly, yearly for a corporation, and my quota was like $475,000. That's how much I had to make. So it was big numbers, and it helped me get comfortable with financial deals of a very large amount and just moving large amounts of money, and communicating with people about my product, about my service, doing really like high level sales work and really trying to get people to come to your side. Because when people pick up the phone and they realize it's a cold call, it could go really wrong really fast. So it really pushed me from a communication skills aspect, which is why I say my English degree was the best decision really when it came to sales and marketing. Working in corporate sales and being on the phones all day and cold calling, it really pushed me as a communicator. And I would send emails and, it took me months, but I figured out the email that made me money, and it was like 3 lines and it had one hyperlink. And I figured out, after having sent so many emails and done so many phone calls, you figure out what works, what combination of words gets people to spend money with you, ultimately, from a cold call to bank deposit. And it was very difficult, but it really, really, really gave me those business skills that I was going after. And it also gave me the money. I made my first year a little under $70,000, my first year in corporate sales.
So, Deanna, think about that. The concept of changing your environment, but taking the skills that you learned and going from making $15 or $14 an hour to $70,000 a year.
Yep. It was crazy. Yeah. I've experienced a lot of extremes, I guess you could say, in my career, that being one of them. But I was really miserable. I was really struggling. I was drinking a lot more than I normally would. I was drinking almost every night when I got home from work, and it was hard. It was hard for me to shelf my creativity. It was hard for me to shelf my true identity, which I felt was very much, I'm a creative person. I love fashion. I love design. And I knew I was going to launch this business. I mean, I even openly told my boss and my coworkers what my career goal was. I was open about it.
So you still always had it to the side. You're like, okay, this is just to grind, make money, enjoy my life.
Exactly.
And I already know that this is still not forever.
Yeah. I was working corporate sales, working the phones, full knowledge that this is just a stepping stone before I can launch my own business. This is a way for me to make money. This is a way for me to gain skills and meet people. And I did. The networking was absolutely fantastic. I met so many great people that I still talk to today that are customers of mine now, actually. And I had a lot of support from my manager. She encouraged me to explore my entrepreneurial tendencies and interests. And she even bought me a book called Be Your Own Boss. Be Your Own Best Boss. So my corporate manager was encouraging me to pursue entrepreneurship. That's how awesome this woman was. She was not this corporate robot who was just like, get the money. I don't care. You're not a human being. She treated us like humans, and she talked to each one of us as a full person with hopes and dreams. And she allowed us to be open about the fact that maybe this corporate sales job is just a stepping stone. Maybe it is just for right now. It's okay to admit that. And for me, that was really liberating. And I felt comfortable in that environment, even though the job itself was really dry and boring. And, it didn't really light me on fire, I guess you could say. It's kind of dull and repetitive, but I was really being nurtured and supported by my manager and also my team. So it kept me there. It kept me there longer. I didn't burn out, because a lot of people start that job. Like, I had 10 people in my training class, because they train you for 2 weeks before you actually get on the phone, do anything. I had 10 people in my training class that like 2 of us were left 6 months later. So wow. Yeah, like a lot of people drop out.
So how long before you launch Rich Accessories to that time?
So I have an expiration date of 1.5 years on average with every job I've ever had. It's weird. I don't plan it that way, but it's almost like, okay, it's been 1.5 years, time to move on. So I did my 18 months there. And I wasn't ready to let go of the money that I was making in corporate sales. So I knew I had to leave the current business I was in because the culture was getting to be really toxic and they were cutting my pay. They restructured everybody's commission plans and just basically they wanted us to work twice as hard for half the money. So I wanted to leave and take my skills to a smaller business. I was like, I want to go back to the small business world, but in the tech field now that I have these tech sales skills. And so I found a job working with a small technology company who sold software to government agencies. It was like a government software program built for the government. And so the whole company was government tech sales. I was like, wow, this is great for me. This is like my specialty. So I get the sales job there. And I was a little disappointed that they put me on as they had their sales department split for people who do the cold calls. And then the other half of the salespeople were like a tier above them. And they were the ones that actually closed the sales. And like you would book an appointment for an actual salesperson. So I was one of those reps that would do all the cold calls and book appointments for the upper salespeople to actually like do the sales call and hopefully close the sale. And so I was a little disappointed that, you know, after having all of this great sales success in my career, that I was being asked to do entry level work for really not very much money. But they assured me it wouldn't be very long, just so I know, you know, what the entry level job is like, and then they'll bump me up. I was like, okay. So I take the job, and it's really one of those places that is the stereotypical tech startup. Beanbag chairs, a big projector screen where people watch Netflix, they play video games, there's foosball, there's ping pong, toys and things. And it's like, I don't know. To me, I think that type of work culture is kind of weird. But so I was like, this is going to be cool. Like, wow, this seems like a really chill company. They seem really progressive. And I ended up quitting that job after 2 months. I just am not a good employee. I mean, this is part of the.
At least you're honest about it, because some people have to be their own boss. They just can't not be.
And that experience for me, I mean, I just burned through that job, and I just couldn't do it. There were just all these little things that made me as a female feel unwelcome. Like I mentioned, the Nerf guns, they would shoot each other with Nerf guns during the day, like during the work day. And if you were trying to ignore it, or they would hit you and you were like annoyed by it, they would get mad at you that you weren't like into their Nerf gun game. Almost teenage boy environment in the sales office. It was like a very fratty in a way.
So clearly this was the best place to work.
No.
So, just kidding. But I want to talk about, though, yes, we can go on about these stories, but I want to talk about like the fuel within you, because there is going to be a younger Deanna that listens to this. And it's like the younger Deanna is like, okay, I'm experiencing real life things. I'm doing this to have a life, essentially, right? But the passion is always there. So now it's starting to creep up really like as much as humanly possible, right?
Yeah.
So then fast forward, obviously these people suck. You go to another job. It's not the best.
Well, I was unemployed for no job for probably a month.
But then you went to another sales job.
I got a job. I wouldn't even call it sales.
Okay.
My next job, at that point, I was so desperate just to get back into jewelry and get back around diamonds that I got a job working in a studio. I will just call it a jewelry studio, that a former coworker of mine who I used to work with at the custom jeweler. Well, guess what? They didn't pay him very well either. So everybody leaves this company, this jewelry store, because the pay is bad and they won't give you a raise. So he left and made a company, his own jewelry business. And he didn't have any employees, and he was really overwhelmed because he had always been an employee. He had never been a business owner before. And so I was like, wow, this could be perfect for me, you know, like a good next step where I could help somebody who already started a jewelry business. I could come in and help and be the salesperson,
right?
And
like
just,
advise,
manage the store.
Right. It sounds like an amazing opportunity. You're back into your element.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. And have clients again. And so I start. So this was a total verbal agreement. There was nothing written down, and I was working for $10 an hour, because I just really wanted to design jewelry and just do entrepreneur stuff, you know, like I just wanted the job experience, and I wanted to feel free and at home. And I did. Like, I feel at home in a jewelry store.
So talk about that for a second. You go from $14 an hour to $70,000, which is really nice, right? Like there's a lot of extra things added to that cart and there's total satisfaction over it. But then there's that I've experienced such shitty behavior or like whatever. I'm going to go back now to $10 an hour to be in a industry that I love.
That's right.
And that's for the listeners to take away of sometimes you have to make that choice, but you know that it's a concrete, like, this is what I love. It's not I'm going to go back to $10 and figure out, I know where I want to be.
Yeah. I really, as cliche as this sounds, I just try to let my heart lead and just kind of trust that everything else will work out and that money will work itself out. It's something that my dad would always tell me too, growing up. He would say, always remember, money always finds a way to work itself out. Money always finds a way to work itself out. And so I was raised with that as kind of a mantra, as, you know, I guess that was my dad trying to train me not to be a slave to the dollar, you know? So I took this job and he was promising me that he was going to get a big business loan and my salary would come from that business loan. So I was like, okay, you know, I really can't make $10 an hour anymore. Like my husband, like, wasn't happy about it. Like, obviously, like, we have to pay money to live. So I was like, dude, like, I can't do this anymore. Like, this is a good job and everything. And I believe in your business, but the pay is too low. It basically, like, I pressed him on the business loan thing and he was like, yeah, I'm not getting the loan. And I was like, what? Like, he kind of, I think, told me that he was getting a loan just to kind of keep me around, you know? And so that ended actually really ugly. I resigned. I worked there 3 months. I resigned. It was right before the holidays. You know, I don't.
But you were standing up for, that was a ladies on with Lions moment that you're like, I'm going to not even just walk into a room with my head held high, but I'm walking out with my head held high.
Yeah.
That I am not going to be BS'd around.
No. Where's my money?
Where's my money? I've earned it.
Yeah.
It's a broken promise. I have to actually push it out of you that you're not going to get it. And you're going to keep me here until, and you weren't going to tell me. Right. So it's like, how long were you just going to let me work for until you're Yeah.
And tell me the story about this business loan that you're never getting.
Right. And so you actually did a ladies with Lions moment of walking out and being like, I know what I'm worth. I know my talent.
Yes.
And I'm not going to stand for that.
No.
Did it feel good walking out?
Oh yeah, it felt great. Honestly, I was, you know, really experiencing a lot of anxiety while working there because I was working. So it was a really high stress job and I was making so little money, and that was stressful too. So I was so stressed out. So I just felt this wave of relief, like telling him I was quitting. And he insulted me and said all this really mean stuff to me. Like, basically telling me I'm the type of person that leaves when things get a little bit hard. And then telling me that $10 an hour isn't actually that little of money, that he's worked for less than that.
Yeah, whatever. People can say that, like,
okay. Well, now that you said that, okay.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, back in like 1945. Yeah, you're
no. He was like over 60.
Yeah, whatever.
Yeah. So yeah.
But I want to talk about the moment. I'm like trying to get to it because
that's it. That was the moment. Marissa,
okay,
that
so
take
me. So ladies, so you had a ladies with Lions moment. Yeah. Fucking awesome. You walk out and you're just like, I'm gonna fucking do it. I'm doing it. And was there was no doubt. There was just like, the time has come. Where did it fuel you? Did you want to throw up? Were you like, I can go run 2 miles right now? Like, where was your adrenaline at? Where were you?
Adrenaline was high. For a long time, I will say. When you have these realizations so remember when I said when I was 25 and was working at the jeweler, getting paid no money, but enjoying my job, that's when I knew I had to be an owner and do my own jewelry business at 25. I was like, that's what my career will be. Okay. Fast forward to 27. I still didn't do it, but I knew that and this is the end of 2017. Okay. So this is right on the cusp of 2018 and my 28th birthday, which is in January. And I said, now's the time. It was actually funny. It came up in my resignation conversation with this boss. And he said, so I'm sure you got another job already. I'm sure you got a great job already. And I was like, yeah, I did. I hired myself just now. I just hired myself. I'm going to start my own company. Now's the time. I was like, I'm basically doing it for you for $10 an hour. I mean, I was doing a lot for his business. And, you know, and I don't know, I just had this realization that why am I going to work on a jewelry business for somebody else? I'm going to do it for myself. And, you know, I knew that I wouldn't be paid immediately. I knew that I was looking at another several years of financial hardship, but I didn't care, because when you're in your 20s and you don't have kids yet, you have to take advantage of that freedom. You have to take advantage of the opportunity. And also just like that fire that you have, that fire in the direction of where you know you will be happy. For me, picking my career was a huge decision. What am I going to do all day, every single day, except for weekends and holidays? That's a really big decision. So for me, something like short-term income, making money in the short term, was for me a huge mistake to prioritize short-term money for the opportunity to start a company that maybe when I'm 40, 50, 60 years old will be paying big, big, big dividends, not only in happiness, but also in money. You just have to be willing to eat shit. I hate to say it, but there's just no other way around it. If you are looking to start a business, you have to be ready to eat shit for years. It's not this, because I did the corporate life, you know, I got the money, I got the security, I got, you know, the random $100 bills that the sales manager would, you know, walk by your desk and throw you a couple $100 bills because you're doing so good. You know, it's not like that. You ain't making it rain right away. You're working for free. Actually, you're going into debt and spending money to work. How about that? That's what it is. But you know, in my opinion, that's the price of freedom for me. That was my price of freedom. And, you know, it didn't come without its complications, but I feel like I've had my dignity, where in the past, you know, having told you all these stories of these different jobs I had where I wasn't paid, or, you know, I was being managed by racists and sexist, I didn't have my dignity. I didn't feel that I had my dignity. But now as a small business owner, I feel that I have it.
I have chills.
You'd have chills?
I have
Oh my
chills.
goodness.
So I want to talk about, this is about you, but I want to talk about, because you don't only, I know in the beginning of Rich Accessories, you were going to like Arizona and getting, you know, handbags and beautiful, all these accessories, like all these amazing things. But I want to talk about the stuff that you're designing on your own.
Okay.
Can you go into that a little bit? And I am so lucky enough to have a custom piece of D Rich line. And it was actually for my 30th birthday, we went to a beach and we have a shell, and I have that shell that I can now wear from that wonderful weekend around my neck at all times. And it is so fantastic. And you obviously designed it and did it, and I absolutely love it. So I want to talk about what your collection represents to you.
Yeah, so I right now am working on D Rich Collection, which is my line of jewelry. I released a couple of pieces, like you said, over the summer. I guess you could say a mini collection featuring seashells that I picked up from Topsail Island, which is one of my favorite beaches in North Carolina. And I love to incorporate gemstones that are maybe underappreciated and forms of gemstones that are underappreciated. So one of the mediums that I work with a lot that actually I use in your necklace is gemstone beads. So we all know, we're familiar with faceted stones, you know, like diamonds and things that we set, but you can take raw gemstone material and facet it into a bead and string it. And so I like to work with gemstone beads, pink opal. I have lapis lunazils. I have labradorites, pyrite, black onyx, turquoise. I work with a lot of turquoise.
I love turquoise too.
Yeah.
It's so pretty. It's flattering on everyone. It's such a beautiful stone, right? It goes with everyone.
The color goes on anybody's skin. It really is a beautiful stone. But my inspiration for D Rich Collection is nature's untamed spirit. So nature cannot be tamed. It cannot be controlled. It is infinite creativity. It is infinite beauty. It's infinite possibility. Nature is really my religion. So for me, nature is at the center of my jewelry collection. So I'm always going to be using natural materials. That's not to say I'm not open to lab grown as well. I'm a huge believer in lab grown, diamonds and gemstones. There is a little bit of controversy about that in the industry, but the reality is mining for new gemstones and new diamonds is very costly to the planet and also humans. So lab grown is definitely the future. But in terms of my collection, I am working on the holiday collection right now. Actually, it's in production. It's in production.
So exciting.
So exciting. So I have some really cute tassel earrings, some bracelets that are really pretty gemstone bracelets. I have a lot of stuff with a moon as a theme, like a beautiful crescent moon. So that will be coming out as we get closer to the holidays. My jewelers are working. So what I do is I actually sketch. So I sketch pictures of jewelry that I want to see and I draw it to scale. That's the good thing about jewelry is it's pretty small. So you don't need like a big warehouse or, you know, a lot of space like you would need for clothing or something. I draw the pictures of jewelry. I order the materials that I need. I did a big buying trip in February of 2019, like you mentioned, down to Tucson, Arizona, which is the international gemstone convention, I guess you could say, like of the world.
That's crazy. And I have like no idea. It's like you're educating me on this industry and culture that I have no idea about. It looked really, really cool.
Oh my God. I actually went to Tucson the first time when I was working for the jeweler, the custom jeweler when I was 25. And they took me on a buying trip to go out and buy stones and buy jewelry and just to get inspiration. But Tucson is only maybe 30 minutes north of the Mexican border. So it's a desert, you know, there's cactus everywhere. The landscape is completely different from what I'm used to, you know, being in North Carolina and coming from New York. So I was just completely mesmerized by the desert, very inspired by it. I mean, how do you even put Tucson into words? It's the whole city turns into a gem show. There's dinosaur bones on the side of the road. Like, I'm telling you, it's everywhere. There's gems everywhere. I encourage everybody to go who's even remotely interested in crystals or gems. That's what I've been doing. You know, the first 2 years of my business venture, I started at 28 and here I am now at 30. The first 2 years was really focusing on rich accessories. So that's my boutique business where I sell, I have some pieces from D Rich collection up there, but the vast majority of my time has been spent working on the retail aspect of it. So finding vendors, finding people who make cool jewelry all over the country. And I sold handbags as well. And I also sell hair accessories. So, you know, starting an accessories boutique is a passion of mine. I really have two businesses, to be honest with you. Rich Accessories is one business and D Rich Collection is the other business.
One of the things that I want to stem back to the first question I asked you was with the fuel of Rich Accessories, whether it's the collection or the boutique, things that then could be passed down.
Yes.
Right. So
quality.
That's a really big thing.
Yes.
For you is quality. Because now people are buying like $5 bullshit and it turns your finger green where it's like, no, just because you're younger and you're hustling to build your career and maybe, you know, you can't spend $5,000 on a ring, you can still get good quality without breaking the bank.
Yeah, no, that's a really good point. So one of the main business goals, like business angles that I'm taking with my business is the price point. So there's a really large gap, and particularly in the jewelry world, where you can buy fine jewelry, you can buy gold and diamonds at a fine jewelry store and you know where to go for that. You can go and buy, you know, $5 costume jewelry at Target or, you know, any mall store. But where is that in between category where, let's say this is a gift category, like many people, maybe they want to buy a piece of jewelry for their mom on Mother's Day, but they only want to spend maybe $300 or $250. Right? You don't want to spend 25 bucks on your mom, but you want to spend maybe 250 on your mom. Same goes, I notice this a lot with shoppers looking for gifts for their partners, like particularly men shopping for women. They want to spend maybe $400, $200, $300, like all day long. But you show them something for $1,200 and they're like, no. And there's really just a lack of this for under $500 price point in the jewelry world. But there's so much you can do for that price point and pay people a living wage right here in the US to make it. So it's not foreign made, it's heirloom quality, it can be passed down, and you're not breaking the bank. So I work a lot in silver because gold is extremely expensive, especially with the instability in the world right now. It drives the price of gold through the roof. So I would like to work with gold in the future, but the prices are crazy. So it's not, I just don't have the money as a business to make a collection of gold. I do work a lot in sterling silver. I have a line of 3D printed jewelry who I buy from a local jeweler who I work with.
It's gorgeous. It's absolutely beautiful.
Yeah,
it's crazy that that's 3D printed.
Yep.
You wouldn't even know, it's like, what?
I know. Yeah. So I have a bunch of 3D printed jewelry that is not, I mean, the post for your earring is silver, but it's actually a type of nylon. So, I'm really open to all different types of mediums, but no, quality and longevity is really important.
So getting close to the end here, I know we talked about risk and seeing really horrible things firsthand, doing things to make money, but with always being fueled by your business. The last question that is asked by everyone who is on the podcast is, what is one thing that you experienced that everyone should go through?
Wow, that's a really good question. I have to say cold calling. I think if everybody could do a cold calling job, at least a portion of their job life, like at least a portion of their career, I think that you would see how that experience would pay dividends in the future. The reason for that is it's so scary to call strangers. I had to attempt to call at least 55 strangers a day. I mean, eventually you get to know people and you build a territory, but in order to make your numbers and always grow your territory, you always have to reach out to people you don't know. And it really builds your confidence, because you have to figure out a way to not take it personal. Because if you take rejection personally, you're going to quit and probably cry all the way home too. Because people are mean on the phone, because you're just a random salesperson. Maybe you'll get hung up on or insulted, right? And then that next person that answers is so glad that you called, because they're in charge of the training project for their department and they had no idea what to do. And here I am, a random salesperson calling, asking if they need help at training. And she's like, yeah, I do. And by the way, I'm the project manager and this is my entire budget. Would you like it? That's the next dial after you just got insulted and hung up on. So it's almost like a microcosm for life, right? No matter how bad and horrible and crappy an experience is that you have in your professional life or personal life, there's always a new day. There could be a new opportunity around the corner that you have no idea is waiting for you. That is just the windfall moment you've been waiting for. And cold calling will teach you that.
That's awesome. Awesome. Yeah. Well, Deanna, thank you so much for your story today. You are a lady with lions. You have the confidence, you have the bravery, you have taken risk. You are an amazing, amazing example of a lady with lions.
Thank you very much.
So for everyone out there that wants to see her collection and the accessories, please go to shoprichaccessories.com and you could find it on Instagram at Rich Accessories. Thank you so much, Deanna, again, for being our first. We cannot wait to talk to you again. Bye.
Yes. All right, bye.